Hello everyone, welcome back to the Baking Analyst channel, and today I'm going to talk about why I spent £3,000 on this debit card and how this debit card can somehow help beat inflation. On this channel, we cover economics, cryptocurrencies, personal finance, and DeFi with a focus on yield farming so far. So if that sounds like something that interests you, do consider subscribing to this channel and hitting the like button if this content is helpful to you. If you're completely new to DeFi and yield farming and wonder what on earth these people are doing earning passive income by staking their cryptocurrencies, then I actually have a free DeFi and yield farming course in the description below, and you can access that with a free trial to Skillshare. You can cancel anytime at no cost to you whatsoever. So with that shilling out of the way, let's jump straight to the content. So first, let's have a little recap of the Cronos ecosystem. This week has been a little lighter of a news week. I know last week there was more of an urgency to get into Cronos because APYs were so high. However, the APYs have come down to a still decent 200%, as you can see in the farms on VVS Finance. Now, VVS Finance, as I said in a previous video, had this migrator code that could potentially lead to a rug pull. However, apparently the ownership of this contract has been transferred to another contract which supposedly disables the migrator code from being used, and any further transfer of ownership of the main master chef or craftsman contract away from the proxy contract is behind a 3-day time lock, meaning that all of us investors will have 3 days to withdraw all our funds before some rug pull event occurs. Meanwhile, other projects on Cronos and yield farming opportunities have popped up, such as CronaSwap. Well, this is a basic yield farm that is very similar to VVS in functionality. However, this does not have the migrator code. If we were to look into the code and the rug doc review, it says it's a pancake swap fork with migrator removed. So that seems good if you want to avoid a hard rug. And we also now have auto compounding with VV Finance. You can put your LP tokens into VVS Finance, you add liquidity down here, and then you deposit and stake your LP tokens over here. Now, VV Finance is a very established auto-compounding vault that is from Binance Smart Chain. If you've been around in the DeFi space for the past year, you would know that they were one of the first auto-compounding vaults and are still around today, so it doesn't seem like they're rugging anytime soon. So definitely something to look into if you don't want to compound your gains daily manually. So now let's jump right into some context of this week. Now, CRO has hit an all-time high. It is still going up 34% in pretty much a day. Suffice to say, a lot of us CRO holders are doing pretty well, to the extent that perhaps a lot of people are upgrading to one of these metal cards. And actually, I just did upgrade to this green £3,000 metal card. I'll be explaining a bit about why I did this at all-time high and how this card can actually potentially help beat inflation to some extent. Of course, this is not financial advice. Always review your own financial situation before making any investment of this sort. Now, for those of you who have been monitoring the macroeconomic landscape as of late, you will know that inflation has been in the headlines and has been discussed consistently. For example, we see that in the UK, we have seen an inflation rate that's the highest since December 2011. And that is not just because of money printing, but also because of supply chain issues. Either way, inflation is around 4.2% if we look at CPI alone. However, CPI is a bit of a misleading figure because not everyone purchases the items that are included in CPI. Some people might be disproportionately more affected than others if a larger share of the income goes towards purchasing things that have inflated more in price, such as utilities, electricity, so on and so forth. On the other hand, we also have the issue of potential stagflation, which means that productivity and economic growth stagnates while inflation rate remains high and price levels continue to increase at a high rate. And that's a concern because it means that, for example, if productivity doesn't increase to the point that the economy is able to support real wage increases that keep up with or surpass the rate of inflation, then people are essentially getting poorer in real terms with whatever wage they're earning right now. So in comes the CRO card, and how this could help in hedging against the effects of inflation. So there are three main ways that this CRO card can help us hedge against inflation. And the first one is the earn function. The earn function functions as somewhat of a high yield savings account. You can either deposit your cryptocurrencies or stablecoins to earn interest. As you can see, you can earn up to 14% per annum for stablecoins. And with this Jade Green card, that maximum is 12%. To upgrade to 14%, you will need to get the IC or Rose Gold card. Now, as veteran yield farmers, 12% might not seem like much. And sure, you could go into USDC, USDT on VVS Finance and earn 34.66% instead. This would work perfectly fine if not for the fact that there's often slippage when you try to purchase USDC or USDT on the crypto.com app, especially if you're not from the US. So for a lot of people outside of the US, such as for us here in the UK, that might not be an option. So one other option will be to use Crypto Earn. You get rid of the slippage and you deposit your pounds, convert them into true GBP at a 1-to-1 ratio, and lock them up for 3 months at a time to get 12% APR. Of course, you might be wondering, if I have to lock my money up for 3 months at a time, isn't that a bit risky if there's suddenly a liquidity event, such as when I have to pay rent or when I have to pay for a sudden bill? Yes, there is. That is where you need to be a little careful about going all in. So what I like to do is to place a small amount that I'll foresee as like an emergency fund in the flexible deposit term, earning 8% APR. It's a slightly lower rate of interest, but it helps mitigate the risk of, me having to spend that money in the short term. The rest of them can then go into the 3-month terms, which pay a considerably higher amount at 12% PA. I then create a recurring deposit month after month to start a new 3-month term with each monthly deposit, so that after 3 months, each subsequent month sees a new deposit unlocking and being available for use if necessary, or recompounding. Now, how does this help you beat inflation? Well, first of all, there's the fact that you're getting paid 8 to 12% per annum, and if you compound it, it functions just like a pay raise. For example, if we go into compound interest calculator, and I'm assuming that, you have the UK average salary of £30,000 a year, and you're able to deposit £1,000 into an earn term every month. Now, if you do that and you start from zero, if you lock it for 3 months in a 12% per annum account, and you can compound it monthly because you have a new term unlocking every month, at the end of 1 year, you will get about £682, which is slightly over 2% of your original salary, which you can see as a 2% raise. However, the magic really happens in the second year. Now, we know that central banks around the world generally try to target a 2% to 3% inflation rate. As a result, it is pretty standard to see the salary raise for every year be around 2 to 3% as a default. However, if you were to continue making deposits into your stablecoin earn terms in crypto.com, you would see your additional amount for your second year being equivalent to this number, 2973 minus 682. That would be a gain of about £2,300 or $2,300. The currency sign really doesn't matter in this case since it's just math. So let's say £2,300 extra on top of the £30,000 original annual salary. So that would be equivalent to almost an 8% raise rather than a 2 to 3% one, and that will help somewhat in mitigating the effects of inflation and erosion in your purchasing power. Now, the second way that this card helps beat inflation is through cashback. So if we look at the different tiers in the CRO card stack, we see that you could go for the Ruby Steel, which gives you 2% cashback and you stake about $400 or £300. And then you can go up to the Indigo or Jade Green stake, which I just did, which gives you 3% back. Or if you feel really confident in CRO, or you're basically a millionaire where £30,000 is not much of your net worth at all, you can go straight for the icy white Rose Gold. However, while the cashback on this card is attractive at 5%, it doesn't seem as good a use of capital as, putting them on a yield farm on VVS Finance, where your yield will be much higher. So far, I've went with the Jade Green card because it's a happy medium between lifestyle perks as well as CRO rewards. Now, this cashback or 3% back can be interpreted as a rollback in inflation because essentially you are paying 3% less for everything you buy using your card. So in a sense, if inflation were 3 to 4% a year, you're rolling that back by 3%. So real inflation to you is more like 0 to 1%. And finally, the last bit of the puzzle is CRO appreciation. Now, when you go with the Jade card and up, your CRO stake actually earns 10% interest per year, and this interest is paid in more CRO. So you get to benefit from both additional CRO being added to your account like a dividend, as well as the potential price appreciation in CRO. Now, do I believe that CRO will continue going up in the short term or in the near future? Given that it's already reached an all-time high, I would say that is definitely possible. We are possibly seeing a sort of BNB moment right here. Back in 2020, BNB went from like $30 per coin all the way to $600 when they launched the Binance Smart Chain. DeFi apps came on board, total value locked went through the roof, and we saw yield farmers come in, buy BNB to pay gas fees, and so on and so forth. However, CRO or Crypto.com has another advantage, which is that people are locking CRO to get these cards and therefore taking CRO out of circulation, leaving the circulating supply artificially lower. So if you have these two factors, on one hand, you have a reduction in supply of circulating CRO. On the other hand, you have increase in demand for CRO for paying gas fees on all these new DeFi platforms like VVS, like CronaSwap, and Beefy. Then you have a recipe for an increase or an upward pressure in the price of CRO. And looking closer into the tokenomics of CRO, we saw that they actually burned 70 billion in February, and they have a plan to increase the circulating supply of CRO to over 80% of the total possible supply, meaning that inflation is likely to go down over time for CRO tokens. And additionally, when you think about it, how are they paying out this cashback? This 3%, this 5% for IC, and this 2% for Ruby. Well, apparently, Crypto.com is market buying CRO and crediting that into your card. Now, how does that happen? Well, with every Visa transaction, there's something called an interchange fee, which is charged to the merchant. And this fee is shared between Crypto.com, which is the issuer of this card, and Visa, who is the payment processor. So Crypto.com earns a bit of money from every transaction that is made using their CRO cards. And then they're likely to use this amount, as well as some of their other revenues, to market buy CRO to pay you that reward. So in a sense, there's always buying pressure for CRO from both cashback as well as DeFi, and people are not selling if their CRO is locked for 6 months in one of these cards. And therefore, based on those reasons, I think it is highly likely that the CRO token would increase in price. And of course, I might be wrong, and again, not financial advice. So what is my strategy for combining both the Crypto.com card on the centralized exchange and the DeFi aspect, which is yield farming on high yield protocols such as VVS Finance? Well, my proposed strategy is this. First of all, I'll be putting most of my fiat holdings into stablecoins. So putting GBP into TGBP to make 12% interest, with of course an emergency fund in a flexible state. Following which, I will be using the interest earned from the Crypto.com earn to buy CRO and then sweeping that into farms every month so that we have a continuously increasing balance earning these juicy APRs of over 200% at the moment. And the thing is, this would form a pretty good way to grow a position over time and, reap the benefits, especially if you don't need to use the money immediately. So I hope that's been useful and educational. For the final time, this is not financial advice, but if you're convinced to get one of these Crypto.com cards, you can use the link down below to get an additional $25 bonus if you sign up using that code and get at least a Ruby Steel card. Now, if you found this video helpful, do consider subscribing and hitting the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.